So let's do a keys to victory review. Number one, hold the Raiders to a season average in the run game. We didn't hold them to their average, but come on. 3.3 yards per carry versus 2.7 yards per carry. That's good enough to win. So I'm going to say that was a winning performance, my opinion. Keep Davante Adams for having a signature game. 4 for 45. Done. I mean, really, he got most of those yards on one drive. Played a good game against him. Now, I think we probably gave up some, Jacoby Myers had plays that he might not have had in other games for not paying so much attention to Davante. But number 3 here, man, follow Crosby around. No single rushes in passing situations. This guy blew up the game plan because we ran 12, 13, 21 personnel to account for him using the guys that we probably shouldn't account for him with. And then we didn't account for him at all at sometimes. He has 1 sack, 4 tackles for loss, constant pressure. Just honestly destroyed your game plan. Absolutely destroyed your game plan. Good, bad, and ugly. The bad, we lost the turnover battle 1-3. I think that's the 3rd week in the row we lost the turnover battle. We didn't get much out of special teams. We had 1 punt return for 2 yards. They were happy letting the ball go out of the end zone. We talked about this before. Last week, they didn't do a good job. Keyshawn Nixon returning the ball. Now they just decided, fair enough. You guys can just kick it out of the back. We'll take it at the 25. And then offensively, we can see what they're thinking. They're worried about Max Crosby. How are we going to game plan for this guy? But again, I just don't know. Without Aaron Jones in this lineup, I don't know if you can effectively run that game plan with 12-21 personnel, the style of running that you want to accomplish. You just see if there's a couple of those home runs or home runs, the feel of the game changes, right? If he bounces the one, the feel of the game changes. Couple of the flat passes they can work in for Aaron that he makes something happen. The feel of the game changes. Like this is where the 1 or 2 players missing makes a huge difference for sure. And then the ugly. Jordan Love's regressed the last 2 weeks. I think he has the worst completion percentage of the league, like 55%, something like that, for starters. He's near the bottom in turnovers now. Last 2 games in primetime television. 1 touchdown, 5 interceptions, been sacked 7 times. Not all his fault. A lot of blame to go around. But I think a lot of people started looking at the score sheet, looking at the results, going, oh, yeah, he's so great. He's so great. Reality's sinking in. They're going to have to figure that out. The Packers are constantly playing from behind. They have the 1 comeback win versus the Saints, but they're constantly – it feels like every single game you're like getting yourself in the hole and you're hoping that 4th quarter Jordan Love shows up and does something magical. J. Alexander said something to the effect of, the defense understands it needs to pitch shutouts or score the football in order to win these games until the offense gets their mojo back, or some Austin Powers reference. I don't know. But, basically like, I don't think he's throwing shade. I think it's just where it is right now as far as this is the state of that team. And I think that once that's expressed verbally, you're not going to forget it. Certainly, it's going to go around that locker room a little bit now, and they'll probably make some statements about it. You hope that he doesn't say that necessarily because it doesn't put a lot of confidence in the offensive side of the football. But maybe they don't deserve it. I guess the only thing I would say is, Aaron Rodgers, Davante Adams carried that defense for a long time. They weren't necessarily a top 5 group for their entire careers. Let's do some what I got wrongs. Maybe some observations. So we talked about getting after Jimmy G. I think we did that. Getting the running game going, stopping the run. I think we did half of that. We were better. We're not very good. We were better. We talked about, I think the Packers are outthinking themselves, certainly. There's certainly plays to be made in the run game that we saw. There's some missiles that turn into explosives. You can't expect the tight ends to block the defensive player of the year candidate. I just can't do it. And I love, more than anybody out here, I probably love, hey, you're going to run 21, 12, 13 personnel. I love it. There's nobody who likes that more than I do. I just don't know if it works with this team without Aaron Jones. Like you see I point out Elgton Jenkins on some of those blocks. Those are they're not commonplace everywhere, but you would see those a lot more with some other lines right now. as far as great technique, just body position, just loving what you see. You don't see a ton of those. I mean, I'm pointing them out because they're somewhat unique. They're not complete. They're not like unicorns, but he's good for a reason, certainly. But you need more of like those are just fundamental, technically sound plays. I'm not showing you him pancaking somebody, picking up somebody, throwing him into the fans, the stands. I'm just showing you technically sound plays with the good fundamentals. And we just need to see, I think, more of that. Okay. So what are the areas of opportunity? I think for the third week in a row, we'll just keep them relatively the same. The running game has to improve. Got to figure out that formula. And the running game has to mesh up with the passing game so that you can have everything you want on your menu that's complementary, right? If you're gonna run the hipped off tight end with the split flow, you got to have an action off of that. You got to have something where you're running the scoop block off of the front side like the Raiders did. You just have to have some stuff that's different that turns into not only in the run game, but also complementing the pass game so that you don't feel like it's kind of these all or nothing short round moments. And again, I think they had some more stuff dialed up in the passing game that we saw. The reason for the short passes is Max Crosby's in your face and you're feeling that pressure all the night. You're just going to throw those checkdowns. I like the physicality from the defense. Have to improve the communication in the secondary. That's a job that is a never-ending journey, I think. Quite frankly, less than 20 points wins games. Got to win with you score 20 points. You give up less than 20, you got to win games. All right, let's do a handful of listener questions in the last 5 minutes here. A lot of questions around the tight end position, running away versus at Crosby. I think we addressed that. Like if you run at him, if you don't double team him, he beats the single guy, especially when you're giving away cues and tells by formation, by system. He killed us either way. I don't think personally, if you can't dance, don't come to the party with me with the tight ends. I don't think it's their fault. I think they're put in situations they can't handle. I think that's a problem. Quite frankly, I just can't imagine sitting in a tight end room after this game and be like, you didn't do a good job. It'd be like, well, I can't block that guy. I'm not good enough yet. Maybe I will be, but I'm not good enough now. And he's better than I am. And so you put me in a situation where he's got leverage. He's got the skill. He's got the skill set. I can't do this. I can't do what you're asking me to do. If somebody comes to you and says, I need you to do something you can't do, you got to do it. You're an NFL player. You get paid to do this, but you also you're kind of going like, well, you might hurt 10 other players of the entire team by asking me to do something that's not possible. Talked about it. Why in shotgun on the 4 going in, more options. Is this worse? Is this a worse loss than the Lions? Well, I think the defense will play well. The Lions offense kicked the hell out of our team. Defense played pretty well this game. Had a turnover, had a handful of sacks, tackles for loss. I think won the line of scrimmage battle for the most part. Gave up less than 4 yards of carry. That's winning football. It's winning football. So I think offensively this was as bad as it gets. I think there's some reasons for that, but I think it's as bad as it gets. I don't know if I've seen one guy destroy a game plan like Max Crosby did yesterday. That was weird. He just destroyed it. Question: what is the offense good at? Fully healthy with Aaron Jones, I think they're good at Aaron Jones getting the football. Not fully healthy without Aaron Jones, I don't know what they're good at. I think they'll find something. I have every confidence that this staff and these players that are good players will find something. You're dealing with first and second year wide receivers and tight ends. You don't have any veterans in those rooms, man. That's a real issue. You have the youngest team in football. Like this is a real problem. This is growing pains. This is the reality of what happens. You can't walk in off of North Dakota State and be like, I'm here to take on the world. That's tough, man. That is a really tough ask. Is the offense better or worse with Watson? Because they'll put in the run play for -5 yards, for example. They're better, but it's like they could have took the shot. They could have Little John him on the play before, and so they don't. So they come around and instead of taking that shot play, they run the orbit motion with the toss, and you go, he's not a running back. I know that's worked before. Like I get it. Like it worked against the Bears last year. Like I know that it works, and I know that he's got this. That he's good. Like he had the 77-yard play that Marcus caught him with a horse collar. But if I'm being honest, I'd rather see them take the shot with an incompletion than the orbit motion with the toss handoff. Me personally. So sometimes when you have, it's the same thing that happens when like your offensive line's hurt and you come up with this game plan, you move the football, and then your offensive linemen come back and you're like, oh, I got my guys back. I can just run the regular stuff. Well, the other stuff was working. Don't run the new stuff. Run the stuff that worked last week and just know that it's going to be run better because you have better players now. But don't just, I can drop back 70 times because I got, my offensive line back. Like that philosophy, I think that happens a lot in football. It's like, oh, I got this guy back. I can do all these things now. Were you winning before? Because if you're winning before, just keep doing what you're doing. Don't overthink yourself. Why does Love throw short? Here's how they design. Real quick. Here's how you design a game plan. You look at, okay, so you pour through film, and they're looking like globally. Okay, where are they at? Like, what scheme, personnel formations is this team in this situations on the field, first, second, third down? Passing situations, are they up? They get all this information. And then most teams want to build out let's start with our run game. So what runs look good? What schemes look good against this team? What players do we want to who are the fish? What players do we want to exploit? And then they're going to build that passing game off of it. So like, for example, this week they're thinking, all right, we want to get in like multiple tight ends, multiple running back personnel groups. And we want to throw a bunch of people at Max Crosby. We want to get into these looks where they keep they're in base personnel. And we feel really good about our run game there. We think we can just pound. We can go straight ahead. We don't think their defensive tackles are very good. We think we can pound. And then when we get into the passing game, you realize like, okay, well, now we have two tight ends in the game. We have Dobbs and Watson, let's say, on the outside. But then you realistically you've got AJ Dillon, Dobbs, Watson, Musgrave, and Kraft. Okay. And we like Musgrave in the passing game. It just changes things a little bit, I think, as far as what your usual philosophy is when you're in like a 3-by-1 look or you're 11 personnel. So you're trying to marry up all the ways you want to run the ball, or with some teams how you want to pass it, but you're trying to marry up like one side with the other. How can we make this look like that? How can we make our split flow look like a quarterback keeper? How can we make all these motions? How can we motion the X across the ball enough times where we hand it off to the left, to the right, we pitch it to them, we run a keep pass, we have a play action pass off. Like, how can we make 7 plays off of this one motion so they have no idea what's going on? And then how can we continue to set up like run plays by making the defense expand horizontally and cover every blade of grass so that we can hit them right up the middle? Like, how do we do all that stuff? And it takes a lot of time. There's some complications about it, but philosophically, you're just trying to like, how do we exploit space? How do we exploit space? And the teams that are really good at doing that, we saw with the Raiders, like something that did really well from an offensive standpoint is they got into certain looks. They knew that we were going to key, and they ran something different. Or they found a certain looks that we have shown on defense to do X, Y, and Z, and they just put in a play, the reverse, for example, that exploits that. So those are the things as you continue to develop and improve, you see happening more and more often. I think right now, at least on the offensive side of the ball, they're more thinking about like, what do we do well? Somebody asked the question, what do we do well? What do we do well? Well, you kind of got to come up with that before you're just like, well, you know what we do well? We have Tyreek Hill on our team. He can beat everybody, so we throw the ball to him. It's not that easy. Definitely is not that easy. So I hope with that, everybody enjoys the rest of the week. We have a bye week now.